The Kansas City Chiefs may look way different next year as they had a few key departures today, but last night they also had a physical big addition to the defensive line. So before we do get in all of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. When it comes to off-season mode, Chiefs Kingdom is always in full panic attack because it always seems like either the Kansas City Chiefs are just too quiet and we're waiting for that next move and they're just not heavily active like everyone else, or when there is activity, it's the Kansas City Chiefs losing players. And today is a prime example of that. So we're going to talk about 3 players that have moved on from the Kansas City Chiefs, and also the Kansas City Chiefs did sign one guy to help bolster the defensive line. So we're going to start off with no other than Juju Smith-Schuster. He signed a contract today with the New England Patriots, 3 years, $33 million. Now your first initial thought on that is like, that is not a bad deal whatsoever. Actually, $11 million a year for Juju, you would think the Kansas City Chiefs would be all over that. And if you would have asked me, I would have been all over that too. Juju, he's 26. Yes, there is some injury concerns, and maybe that's what kind of had Brett Veach and Andy Reid on pause on assigning him to a multi-year deal. I don't know what else it may be. It just seems like maybe Brett Veach didn't view Juju as a long-term answer for the Kansas City Chiefs. But also, there was mention that the Chiefs did try to re-sign him. Now, how hard may that push been? Doesn't seem like it was too hard if the New England Patriots were able to wrap him up on that type of deal. I just viewed it more of, I feel like the same kind of scenario with Orlando Brown Jr. Even though the Chiefs did offer Orlando Brown Jr. a deal, I think the Kansas City Chiefs kind of want an answer at that wide receiving room. Will they find that in free agency? Highly unlikely. They can find 1-year voids or 2-year voids because there are solid options that we will discuss. But maybe that's something they could attack via trade. And this is not something I'm focusing on like a DeAndre Hopkins. But if you trade for a guy like Elijah Moore, who's only 22 years old, that could be a long-term answer at the wide receiver position. I believe Brett Veach didn't feel that he should throw too much money at Juju, and that's why he wasn't going to go the multi-year route. And maybe that's why the Kansas City Chiefs haven't explored many wide receivers so far, because one, this is a weaker market in the wide receiving room. Doesn't mean I don't think they'll be on full pause with that, because now that we will focus on this wide receiver room, there is guys I like out there, like a Darius Layton, like a Paris Campbell. And if you want to focus on an older vet, maybe you go in the route of an Adam Thielen, or maybe OBJ is a reality option now. But is that a long-term solution? No, it's not. And I think Kansas City Chiefs want to find that significant guy to replace Tyreek Hill. Again, when I say replace Tyreek Hill, I don't mean on his level, his type of speed, the type of athletic freak he is. I just think finding that number 1 wide receiver. And I believe Brett Veach knows it's not in this free agency, so maybe you have to look in the draft. Does that mean first round? Does that mean trade up? That'll be a discussion for a different day. But with Juju signing with New England, it's not a surprise here. It's only a surprise because of the deal he signed, honestly, because I thought Kansas City would have been all over that. But apparently they're not, and it's another day, and Juju is now a New England Patriot. He had a solid year with the Chiefs, and good for him, because he's been searching for that multi-year deal even before the Kansas City Chiefs. With Pittsburgh, he had to sign a 1-year deal. He got hurt, and then Kansas City put him on a prove-it-year deal. He got a Super Bowl out of it, and now he gets his multi-year extension, so congratulations to Juju on that. Now, one that did shock me, again, I view it different than a lot of people, so this is shock just to me, but Colin Saunders signed a multi-year deal with the New Orleans Saints, and for some reason, I really believed that Saunders was going to be back with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been a solid rotational piece, and he had his best year last year. Stats may not be crazy, but I feel like if you were able to give him more reps and more playing time, he would have been very well groomed into his role to where he was on the other side with Chris Jones. But apparently that's not the case, because the way I was viewing it is you kept Saunders and maybe you let Noddy go and he finds a new destination. Now it's very likely that both of them are gone, and now the Kansas City Chiefs have a huge hole at defensive tackle. Now, they did bring Deshaun Wharton back, which I'm a huge fan of, but there still needs to be more depth there. You still need to have a solid guy there as well, a big body there to basically have and replicate, and also combine with what Chris Jones does on the field. And that could be one of your biggest needs now on the defensive line. It's going to be interesting to see how the Kansas City Chiefs move forward. Colin Saunders' departure got me more than Juju because I really believed he was going to be on this team, and I see the potential with him. We've seen what he does on his pro days, in the combine, even on the field. A guy of his stature should not move the way he moves. So I'm going to still have my eyes peeled on what he does with New Orleans. And it's funny, New Orleans is like a mini Kansas City Chiefs defense, which I don't think is nothing really too crazy to brag about, but it's crazy how many former faces they have. With now Saunders, they have Sorensen, they have the Honey Badger, and I swear I'm forgetting a name. So I don't know what they're trying to cook up there down south, but that defense is looking very, very similar to a Bob Sutton, Spags type of defense. Again, that's nothing to brag about, but it's cool to see all those familiar faces come together. And another key departure from the Kansas City Chiefs was no other than fullback Michael Burton. This was kind of indifferent with a lot of Chiefs Kingdom. I saw him leaving, and I felt like he might be an easier piece to kind of fill. I don't think that's too big of a hole, but also, I don't want to discredit to what Michael Burton has done for this team, but you could notice the drop-off from this year to last year. I think I reworded that wrong, so we're going to phrase it like this. From 2022 to 2021. In 2021, every time Burton touched the ball, it was an automatic first down. He was getting that yard and no one would stop him. And everyone knew once he touched the ball, he was going to get it. So he was literally a secret weapon for the Kansas City Chiefs. But going into 2022, it wasn't as successful. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, towards when they found out week 6 that it wasn't working, they basically abandoned it. So if you're not going to be running those plays no more, why would you have a player basically holding up a roster spot of 53 men? So it's going to be interesting to see how the Kansas City Chiefs move forward, because we know Andy Reid loves his fullbacks. And it also helps in a quarterback sneak type of situation, because we know it's 2 plays the Chiefs run. Blake Bell, you get your ass under center and you pick up that yard, or Burton, you go get that yard. Now with Burton gone, do they try to replace and get another fullback? 50-50 with that. I still believe they will, because that's what Andy Reid does best. So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward. Or do they still keep a guy like Blake Bell? I believe they can do that, and he's going to be your QB2 quarterback sneak under pressure and get that 4th and 1, 3rd and short, and pick up that yard. Mike Burton, I understand why they made the move. I see a lot of Chiefs Kingdom kind of upset about it. He didn't really do much for us last year, so it's nothing too surprising, and I think it will be an easy hole to fill. I just think when it comes to those short down scenarios, the Kansas City Chiefs got to improve regardless, because when it came to 3rd and 5, they struggled. They have one of the rarest stats ever. When it was 3rd and 5, they struggle, but when there's 3rd and 8 and more, they're very good. So it's something during this offseason that you best believe Coach Reid's going to put his thinking cap on and try to convert these 3rd and shorts. And it was supposed to be Michael Burton, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So I see why the Kansas City Chiefs are moving forward. Now, it's time to shift away from the departures, because the Kansas City Chiefs did make one exciting addition Tuesday night as they signed Charles Omenihu. Now, that name may not be familiar to a lot of Chiefs Kingdom. It wasn't familiar to me, so if I'm mispronouncing his name, I completely apologize. But doing more research on Omenihu, this is a young guy. He's going to be 26, I think right when the season kicks off, or mid-season. So very, very promising. And he had his best year with the San Francisco 49ers. He didn't tally much sacks, but what pops off the charts is, he's an athletic freak. His size is ridiculous. His arm length is ridiculous. Also, you can move him anywhere on that defensive line. He's played defensive tackle. He's played defensive end. He is a good rotational piece. And I think it will also help elevate his game to where he's going to get more playing time than what he did with the San Francisco 49ers. He led that team and was considered their 2nd best pass rusher under Nick Bosa. That's saying a lot for all the studs that they have on that defensive line. And the numbers represent it as well, because he had a drastic increase in his pressures. It was 52 or 54. It was in that range, and that is crazy. Now, I don't know if this is your Frank Clark replacement. One, it's going to be hard to replace a guy like Frank Clark, maybe with regular season production, but when those lights shine brightest in the playoffs, I don't know if anyone can do that. But when you have a young guy like this who can basically is ready to take that next step and can learn from guys like Chris Jones and be with another young guy like George Karlaftis, that's fun to watch it grow. Brett Veach definitely has a plan. He has a mold, and he loves to go for guys 25 years or younger and with all this potential. You see it with Jawan Taylor. Now you see it with Charles Omenihu. That's basically what this free agency is going to be about. So when Kansas City or when Chiefs Kingdom focus on these older guys, it's fun to dream and hope it be reality. But if they are, it's highly unlikely to happen. I would love to see what Charles Omenihu brings to this team. I've heard comparisons of like an Emmanuel Ogbah, and I loved Ogbah on this team. I remember when we traded for him, and then he spent that one season and then left for Miami. I was like, is there any way we can get him back? I just love the presence of Ogbah, and if Omenihu was anything like that, Chiefs Kingdom, we got ourselves a solid pass rusher. Now, to focus on a little bit of the negative, which I don't know too much about as well, is he does have legal trouble. He had a domestic violence case early in January. I don't know the situation whatsoever, but I do trust Veach. I do trust Reed, and I believe they did their due diligence. They always do in this certain type of circumstance as well. And I believe that helped kind of mold this contract together, because Omenihu's contract is 2 years of a max of $20 million. But it initially reads as 2 years, $16 million. So you're looking at $8 million a year. I think the first year is $5 million. So that still gives the Kansas City Chiefs some cap space to play with, and they could still extend Chris Jones, which is, what are we waiting on? Extend that man. Extend Stone Cold. Give him the contract he deserves, because once you do that, one, you lock him down as the Chief for life, and two, it helps this year with cap room as well. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Kansas City Chiefs proceed in free agency. My next move that I'm intrigued to see and that I would bank they sign is a wide receiver. They need to add some more depth. I'm not going to say it's going to be a star receiver, but maybe someone like a Darius Slayton or Paris Campbell, someone like that. They need some bodies in that receiver room. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next move. Shit, it could have happened while I'm recording this video. So with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I am closing this video out. Let me know what was more shocking news to you. Any of the departures, or how you feel about Charles Omenihu as a Kansas City Chief. With that, I'm closing out. Please be sure you subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please give me that big thumbs up. Y'all take care.